Hi there. Today we're going to talk about the Chariot Constellation, the Chariot card, specifically the Thoth card a little bit, and I'm also going to do a comparison with some other cards from my other decks. So, what's the Chariot Constellation about, and why am I talking to you in terms of a constellation? There are 9 basic constellations that comprise the entire tarot card deck. And we're working on the number 7, the archetypal number 7. Each of these constellations, once again, they go from 0 to 9, and they pretty much hold all of the 78 tarot card decks within them. So we're going to talk about the Chariot constellation, specifically the Chariot card. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different cards in this constellation. You have the Chariot card, all of the 7s, which include the 7 of Swords, the 7 of Cups, the 7 of Discs, the 7 of Wands, and the Tower card. Okay, I will not be including the Tower card today as far as the visual aspect of the video. However, I will make another video where I will include the Tower card. So let's get started. Let's look at some keywords at first so that you can lock in what is the Chariot card about and what are some of the key meanings and correspondences with the card. Okay, so the Chariot card here, the archetypal number 7. And remember that numbers are at the core of the tarot card deck. Numbers are at the core of the whole universe. Everything translates and boils down to number. Even language, especially language. But that's for another day. So this is about the principle of change, of movement, a combination of stillness and activity. This is about winning, overcoming obstacles. It's about overcoming struggles. So the way I like to use the tarot cards, I don't do fortune telling. I think that's pretty much a scam. Okay, no one can tell the future definitively. The best a person could probably do is give you probabilities, but really you want to be in control of that. You don't want to give up that power to someone else. Divination is something that you can do and use with tarot cards, but there's also other ways to use tarot cards. You can use them as memory aids for studying and training. If you're in school or if you're doing certifications for work, recertifications, you can use these tarot cards as visual aids, as mnemonic, am I saying that right? As memory aids. You can also use them for self-improvement, especially if you're the kind of person that values mental health. Let's say you're going to a mental health counselor, you're doing one-on-one or you're doing group counseling. You can definitely use these as a focusing tool and as a tool to help fortify your intention for change, especially this one. This is the card about making things happen. So that's where I'm leading you today. This is the kind of work I'm talking about, is self-improvement, self-change, inner work, as well as external work, because once you start changing inwardly, the external world begins to change in line with you. So let me dig up some keywords for you here. Here we go. One of the keywords is the sign, the zodiac sign of Cancer. That's the crab. And in a minute, we're going to see that at the top of one of the cards, and you'll see what I mean. The Kabbalistic letter is Cheth. We're going to look at that too. The corresponding crystals are chalcedony and peridot. Keywords are battle, rags to riches. You ever heard a rags to riches story? The hero's journey? This is what I'm talking about. This is what this card is about. Victory, overcoming battles, overcoming struggles, overcoming hardship, overcoming misery, pain, overcoming disease, overcoming anxiety, overcoming depression, victory. So now you're getting a little bit better understanding. And as you can tell here, if you look at the shoulders of this image here, you see the yellow crescent moons on the right and on the left of his shoulders. You see, so here you are seeing that there is a connection to the moon here. Okay, and you have the two sphinx down here. You have a white one and a black one. Okay, so this gives you the idea of integration, of conflict resolution, of the polar opposites being integrated and balanced. And whenever you're talking about winning, whether you're winning, most of us are not going to go into any kind of war or military battle unless we're soldiers. But there are still conflicts. There are still polar opposites in everyday life. And even within ourselves, we have the conscious and the subconscious mind. And sometimes we're at odds within ourselves as to how we're living or what we may want. For example, you may have a health issue. You may have diabetes, for example. And you shouldn't eat that scone or you shouldn't eat that pastry. And you're in conflict because you want that delicious pastry, but it's not really good for you. So this is something that could be applied into someone's personal situation. Everybody's situation is different, but we all have situations where there's conflict or there might be a conflict of interest somewhere. Okay, so keep these in mind, these keywords: battle, rags to riches, victory. Some more meanings here: immense strength and willpower to face any adversity in your life. Try not to be too impulsive. In a love reading, transparency, having an open mind. Element, water, ruling planet, moon. Now, water is symbolic for the emotions. So this is deep emotional work. This is deep emotional change. This isn't just superficial change. Like, for example, some people, they go on a diet and they do really well. They lose a lot of weight. And once they're off that diet, what happens? They end up gaining it back. And while there may have been an outward change, there was not enough of an inward change for it to last permanently, for it to be sustainable. So this is about making deep and lasting changes. The moon is associated with the cycles of the month, 28-day cycles, right? So you have that element too of cycles, of making this change and having lasting change no matter what, through all of the ups and downs of life. And keep in mind, the moon also affects the tides of the ocean, of the waters, right? So again, there's that influence of the moon on the emotions. It's also about having an open mind. So while you're stable, this is about stable change, by the way. This is about movement, but at the same time, it's also about stability here. So it's not something where you're fickle and you're, torn or just tossed about here and there. You're stable within your core, but there's also a lot of change. So keep that in mind. There's a stability, a stillness, but at the same time, there's also movement. So again, you have the paradox here. You have the opposites of stillness and of motion, right? Is it moving or is it standing still? Well, you have both. It's both light and dark. So again, there's that unification, that integration of the polar opposites. So this is a card to help you develop strength, focus, willpower, and to have the strength to face whatever comes in your life, to face those adversities in your life, however big and small. Okay, so keep that in mind here. Some more keywords. In an upright position, you've got success, focus, ambition, goals, willpower. In a reversed, lack of direction, instability, being egotistical, and of course, having a lot of opposition. So these are some keywords and some things you can think about if you're needing a little bit more direction in your life. Maybe you're confused about your goals in some area of life. Maybe it could be your career or relationships, whatever the case. This is a card you can use to help yourself discover and rediscover what it is that you really want to do and your why, your big reason why. A lot of times when people aren't meeting their goals or when they fall short of where their goals are or what they set out to do, a lot of times it is a lack of direction or maybe having lost that big why, that big reason why. Instability. If there's some instability and confusion and chaos going on in your life, this is an excellent card to use to help you get back and to restabilize yourself. If you're having some issues with humility and being a little more egotistical than you probably feel is healthy for you, this is another one here. And this is not about cowering down or submitting to people or groveling, but this is a healthy recalibration. We all need a certain amount of ego to survive and function as a normal human being, but it's also very easy to go overboard in certain situations, right? So keep that in mind. So success, focus, ambition, goals, stability, willpower. All of these are keywords that help you understand what this card is about and what kind of abilities and strengths that you can use to develop yourself further in line with that. I think this is the last keyword card here. Upright meanings victory, overcoming obstacles, success, ambition, determination, willpower, control, self-discipline, hard work, and focus. And you know, all of these things are basically the key ingredient, the DNA to anything in life that you want to accomplish, right? Whether it's health, whether it's weight loss, whether it's a raise at work or a new job, whether it's going to school and getting a degree or furthering your education, whether it's getting married, looking for a mate to get married to, whether it's learning a new instrument or learning a new hobby, saving up for a vacation. All of these things require a certain amount of determination, a certain amount of willpower, self-discipline, self-control, hard work, and focus, right? So this is an excellent card to use in so many different areas in your life. And, you know, just 15 to 20 minutes a day of meditating on this card with a certain intention in mind is all it really takes to see some results in as little as a couple of weeks, you know. And you don't have to do it every single day, but regularly enough to where you begin to have changes take place within, and you will know. And one of the things you can do is journal, so you can track your progress and actually see how these cards work for you. All right, and reversed, we see here forcefulness, lack of direction, lack of self-control, powerlessness, aggression, coerciveness. So if you're experiencing powerlessness in a certain situation, this is a card that's excellent to offset that, to work through that. Okay, so here's a comparison with three cards. We've got the Thoth Chariot card in the middle here. This is my favorite deck. And at the bottom, at the very far bottom here on your left-hand side, next to the word the, where it says the chariot down here at the bottom, that's the Hebrew letter Cheth, okay? And then on the other side is the symbol for Cancer, the zodiac sign of Cancer. Now, when you go up to the top, on top of the man's head here in the middle, in the center, you see a crab. That is the symbol for Cancer. And at the top of that, above the crab, you see some writing, and I know it's kind of hard to see it here, but it says abrahadabra, which is the original word for abracadabra. So there is an element of magic that is implied here. Abracadabra. It is an element of spell casting. Okay, so there are, I guess what I'm trying to say is this is a deep kind of magical work where you're doing some change work here. And it can seem like a miracle. It can really seem like a miracle. The canopy is made of water here on the top. You see that blue canopy. And on the other chariot card right next to it here, on the left-hand side, again, the canopy is blue, although it is square and it is made out of cloth. But you have this element of blue for water. And once again, that corresponds to the emotions. So this is a deep emotional type of change work that's happening here. You see the crescent moon underneath the crab in the center here, in the center card. It is implied in the man or the woman. I really can't say that it is a male or a female here in the golden armor suit, the armor here, the golden armor. But the helmet definitely has a shape of a crescent moon. And when you look at the far left-hand side of the tarot card here, his shoulders, again, you see the crescent moon. Okay, so again, you have this element of the moon, which again, I'm saying again and again, but you have this element of the moon, and the moon does have an influence on the waters, the oceans, the emotions. Let's see, what else can we talk about here? In the center here, you have this spinning disc, and it is moving so fast that it looks to be still. And have you ever seen wheels move that fast, where they're moving at such a speed that it almost looks like it's standing still? So this is what is implied here. This is a fast type of motion. These kinds of energies that you're developing and unlocking via this card through creative visualization and meditation, these types of abilities are the kind that make things happen, and it doesn't have to take a million years for it to come to fruition. This is a fast type of energy. But at the same time, there is a stillness because you see him sitting in a meditative posture with his legs in a lotus position. So this is also about 80-20. 80-20 Pareto's principle. You know, the 80-20 principle, it's basically about doing about 20% of the labor or the work that is responsible for 80% of the results that you want. So when you keep that in mind, it's about working smart. This isn't about breaking your back and spinning your wheels, but it's about doing the work when you're doing hard work that really, really pays off. When you look at the one on the left here, it's more of a square. You have more of the square element here. The lines are more square, whereas opposed to the one in the middle, you have more curves and more roundness to the lines and to the chariot. And then the one on the far right here, you basically have some curved lines. The chariot that this individual is riding in here, this entity, it does have some curves. So look at that and compare that. Also, take a look at the animals that are in front of each chariot here. You've got, on the far left, you've got the Egyptian Sphinx. And in the center here, of course, you've got 4 of them. And if you look at them, they look to be chimeras. They look to be mixtures. You have one here in the middle that has a human face, and then it looks like it has chicken or eagle feet, right? And then the next to it there, it has an eagle face, but then the legs look to be human feet, and then the one next to it, it has looks like it has alligator skin, but it has a bull's face, and looks like it has lion's feet, paws. And then way on the other side, on the right side there, you have one that looks like it has bull's feet, uh, human chest, a female chest, and then a lion's face but wings. So that's something for you to maybe research a little bit more on. But I want to read you what it has to say about that here out of the book called The Tarot Handbook, Practical Applications of Ancient Visual Symbols by Angeles Arian. This is the one I'm talking about here. Okay. And this is an excellent book, by the way. That's where I got the constellation, the picture of the constellation earlier. Okay. So it says the chariot represents the universal principle of change and causation. Taoist philosophy states that change is successful when both the great rooted tree by the flowing river are combined within a natural setting. This Oriental nature metaphor is a reminder that during times of change, it is necessary to incorporate in equal proportion the qualities of quietude with the activity, which is represented by the flowing river. The chariot depicts a figure in contemplation or quietude sitting within a chariot that is readied for activity. It illustrates that change is pervasive in that it touches every individual multidimensionally. So, again, this is a deep multidimensional change, which is pictured by the four pillars, the four wheels, and the four animals. All of these symbols represent the four elements or the elemental aspects of who we are mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. The charioteer holds the wheel of fortune in his or her hands, reminding us that through choice, we have the ability to select fortunate, positive, and abundant changes for ourselves. In times of contemplating the changes that we want to make, it is important for us to assess which changes will assist our growth and evolution, and which ones will be nurturing, comforting, and supporting to us at this point in time. The choice of selecting change that is fortunate and nurturing is not only revealed by the spinning wheel of fortune, but it is also represented by Cancer, the crab, which is sitting upon the charioteer's head. The 10 crystals on the figure's golden armor also serve as reminders of clear choices made in the past. The number 10 corresponds with the Wheel of Fortune. Therefore, the 10 crystals are fortunate changes that an individual has made and thus carries past memories of those changes within the heart and torso of the self. These crystalline, motivating memories remind us that change is an opportunity for creating new realities that expand and deepen our nature. The four animals in front of the chariot are symbolic representations of the essential ingredients that are necessary for implementing the kinds of changes that are important personally and professionally. These ingredients are 1. Like Taurus, the bull's head and feet, it is important to see tangible results. 2. Like Leo, the lion's head and feet, all change requires that we access qualities of our creativity that we haven't touched before. And the mutation of combining the bull's head with the lion's feet and the lion's head with the bull's feet illustrates that creativity, Leo the lion, always wants to come into some tangible and usable form, represented by Taurus, the bull. 3. Like Aquarius, the human's head and feet, all changes demand that we risk and initiate something new. And 4. Like Scorpio, the bird's head and feet, successful change requires that we follow what has heart and meaning. So this is about unlocking and re-tapping into what has heart and meaning for you. That's the kind of change we're talking about here. The mutation of combining the human head with the bird's feet and the bird's head with the human's feet illustrates that in initiating anything new, represented by Aquarius, the human head and feet, it is important to follow what has heart and meaning, represented by Scorpio, the bird. Change is magical, like the abracadabra writing on the canopy of the chariot. When we combine our emotional nature, represented by the blue oceanic canopy, with our mind and life force, represented by the white air and uncontainable wind, we can produce tangible results, represented by the earth animals that have been fired and stimulated by the motivating force of intuition, represented by the fire chariot. Change is for the purpose of reminding us who we really are. The yellow brick road is the royal road of spiritual growth and evolution. Our choices during times of change are ultimately correct and motivate deeper commitment to the original purpose of personal and transpersonal existence. Okay? So, the chariot supports the integration of quietude and activity in your life. It is the best symbol to use to support desired changes that involve moving, traveling, or making career changes. If you desire to make changes that are positive and nurturing, the chariot is an excellent symbol to use in meditation or within creative visualization exercises to assist your process. When you pull this symbol or find yourself continually drawn towards it, the chariot represents an inherent need to combine quietude with activity. It is a time where you may be contemplating making changes tied with the family or home, or with Cancer people in your life, anyone born June 21st to July 21st. In the next 7 weeks or the next 7 months, you may take an important trip or travel, or you may relocate or move. If you don't, you may remodel or redecorate. It is a time where you will want to resolve ideas tied with the family or the home, or make career changes. If you stay within the same career, you may want to progress or express yourself differently, either through a promotion or using your combined skills in a different way. Okay? The 4 sevens in the minor arcana represent the ways in which we block change or movement or can assist change. 3 ways in which you tend to block change in yourself is represented by the 7 of swords, futility, the 7 of cups, debauch or indulgence, and the 7 of discs, fear of failure. The 7 of wands, valor, represents the way you can support growth and change in yourself. Through valor or your willingness to stay by what you value, you can facilitate the process of growth and evolution within yourself and with others. The tower, which is number 16, which is 1 plus 6 adds up to 7, is the outer representation of the chariot card. The tower represents the willingness to dismantle that which is artificial and false to fact in order to restore and renovate that which is actual and true within one's nature. If you pull the tower card or have a lifetime personality symbol as the tower, you are an individual who's committed to renovating yourself, ideas, people, environments, and things. The tower is a symbol for waking up to the essential nature of who you are. See the Chariot Constellation. So let's take a look at that constellation again. Here we are. You see it here? And let's go a little further here. So this says here, the Chariot Constellation, carrying the principle of movement and change, shows us 3 internal challenges that we encounter in the process of growth and evolution, and the 1 internal gift that can maintain or sustain that movement. We resist change through debauch or indulgence patterns that are detours to change, represented by the 7 of cups. Through fear of failure or fear of success even, which restrains movement or change. And that one there, the 7 of discs, is a very interesting one, because sometimes it's not fear of failure that keeps you from getting where you need to be. from reaching your goal, but it's actually the fear of actually succeeding, because it will require a lot of change. It may require you to get out of your comfort zone. So that's something to keep in mind. And through futility, Seven of Swords, the tendency in the mind to sabotage what we want, which retards growth and halts our intentions to change. So self-sabotage is another one that all of us as a human being have to contend with in certain situations at one point or another in life. Once we face and move through these internal blocks, we are able to go for what we want without settling for less or compromising ourselves, which is valor, the willingness to stay by your values. Seven of Wands. So keep that in mind too. We know we've changed internally when we are willing externally to dismantle old, artificial, and conditioned forms and parts of ourselves that are superficial and no longer workable. This is the process of restoration and renovation, a reclamation of what is actual in our natures. Internal change, witnessed externally in action and behavior, is symbolized by the Tower card, the process of awakening to that which is actual and true within the nature that goes beyond conditioning, family, ego, and culture. So the Tower card is about that change, and it is an external representation of what's going on internally with the Chariot card. Like the spiral, we grow and evolve into expressing even more of who we are through change, represented by the Chariot, which requires that we renovate and restore who we are at deep levels, represented by the Tower. So, this is the entire constellation. So, when you get your tarot card deck, pull out all of the sevens, get the Chariot, and get the Tower. And this is the actual, this spiraling movement. You see that? This is the kind of movement. This is the kind of change. You have ups and downs, and you have patterns, repeat patterns, because it's a spiral. Now remember, the galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy, is a spiral. So in the biggest and in the smallest, within yourself, that type of change, that spiral of change and growth is happening. And at the same time, that's how life and the universe works. And that's how our galaxy is. That is the movement of change, is a spiral. So keep that in mind. All right, let me see. What else did I want to say here? Okay. Some of the affirmations that you can use, some key affirmations that you can use with, some of the affirmations that you could use here is: I stimulate and motivate others positively. I'm responsible for what I cause. I accomplish things effortlessly and well. I enjoy the combination of quietude and activity. So this is one that's great for promotions, career changes, traveling, developing multiple skills, managing, supervising, delegating, making it happen, doing many things simultaneously. So let's move on. Let's do some comparison here. Here's another tarot card. I'm not sure what deck it is, but what struck me about this one here is that this is a very muscular individual. So you have this idea of strength and developing your inner strength, emotional strength, mental strength, spiritual strength, and even physical strength. The Sphinx down here look very female. You notice that the breasts are very prominent. And this is an idea of fertility, of nurturing. You know, when a woman is breastfeeding her baby, that is a very intimate and nurturing experience. So this is an energy and this is an archetype of nurture, of supporting you when you work with this tarot card and this archetype. You see the moon, the crescent moon again on his shoulders here. So there's a very prominent theme of the moon. Let's see, what else do we see? Okay, the Sphinx, you have the opposing, you have the black one and the white one. Again, you have the unification of the polar opposites, the centering, the balancing, the stability, the stabilizing, right? Okay, let's see. Let's pull up another one. Now, this Chariot card here is from the Golden Dawn deck. And immediately I see one black horse and a white horse. So you see, you're kind of getting the idea here. Again, down below the horse, you see the lion and the eagle and the bull. So again, there's this idea expressed of multidimensionality. So this isn't just on a surface level. This is deep, multidimensional change, and it is fortunate and positive change. As you see in the on the head of the character in the center there on top, close to the top of the card, you see a pentagram, and that pentagram is a symbol of balance, of holiness, of purification, of divinity, of union with the divine. So again, this is one of centering and stabilizing and positive, fortunate change. Let's see, what else? You have the wheels here. And the wheels, there's a lot of movement here. There's a lot of movement here. And you have different directions as well. You also have a lot of wings here, which imply freedom. Or flight even, excuse me. And I don't mean getting away from something or running away type of flight, but reaching new heights. And then down at the very bottom, you have the Hebrew letter Chet. And you have on the right, far bottom right, you have the sign of Cancer here. Another thing I see is that the top half of the card is blue, which symbolizes the element of water. But then on the bottom half, you have red, which symbolizes the element of fire here. So you have these quote-unquote opposing elements of water and fire working together. Again, there's this union of the polar opposites. Fire is a lot of heat, action. You know that the electrons are moving very, very quickly and very fast when you're dealing with fire. Whereas with water, the electrons in the atoms are moving a lot slower. And that results in a different element of water. So there's that. Let's see, what else can we see? Oh, I see the crescent moon here too, and right below the figure, right below his torso, you see the crescent moon. So again, there's that moon symbol coming up. And then also you see this theme of the stars above. You see that ring of stars above the figure there? So that's very interesting there. Okay, so I have two tarot cards here. The one in the center is the Money Tarot card deck. That is a limited edition deck. I believe it goes for about $200 or $300 right now. But this is actual real money from Switzerland, Schweizerische Nationalbank, the Bank of Switzerland. And as you can see, the idea is about movement, working, hard work. And you see this guy, I assume he's been chopping down some trees and he's working very, very hard. So again, there's this element of strength and hard work and focus. And a little hard work never killed anybody, right? And anything in life worth having is going to require some hard work. It's going to require some strength. Now, when you look at the card next to it, that is the quantum physics card. Quantum Tarot version 2.0. And as you can see, there's a rocket there, right? Talk about movement. Talk about chariot, not charity, but chariot, right? That is a chariot. That's one heck of a chariot. And you have the equation E equals mc squared. Einstein's theory of relativity have revolutionized the way we see the world. His theory of special relativity reveals that space and time are not absolutes. For example, if you're traveling on a very fast train, time passes more quickly relative to someone who is standing still. It's just that the difference is so minuscule, we don't notice it. Only when we approach the speed of light does the difference in the passage of time become significant. The chariot traditionally shows a man struggling to control two horses. The horses are connected like space and time, though they may fight against each other. This card is about the exercise of personal will, a struggle to master our unruly emotions and contradictory natures. When the chariot shows up in a reading, it often indicates that we have achieved a certain level of mastery over ourselves. The charioteer symbolizes this hard-won maturity. So this is why I say this is an excellent card, an excellent archetype to work with in your mental health endeavors. But even if you're not going to counseling or seeing a counselor, this is still a good card to work with in mastering yourself, mastery over yourself, control over yourself. Because it might be tempting to want to control a situation or an outcome or even another person, but it's a lot more difficult to really, really control yourself. Now, that right there takes some true mastery. And it's something that's a lifelong endeavor. You know, it's not something that you just do once or twice, a couple of times, and then you're done, right? All right. Let's go on. Let's see. Is there anything else here? Let me see. Yeah, let's move on to another deck. Okay. In the middle here, we have the Vice Versa card. This is from the Vice Versa Tarot deck, which means it has a front and a back, and we're going to look at the back in a minute. And on the other side, we have the Tarot of Magical Correspondences. That, again, is a special limited edition tarot deck. I think they go for about $400 or $500 now. They are very, 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 very amazing. And as you can see, let's zoom in on this thing here. All right. As you can see here, it has the outline of the Kabbalistic tree, and it shows you the path. It connects Bina with Gebura, okay, on the left-hand side of the Kabbalistic tree of life. So, as you can see here, Bina is the Sephiroth of understanding. It is the ultimate mother, right? The mother before mothers. Then you have Gebura down below it, which is strength or severity. So between understanding and strength and severity, you have the path of the chariot. You have the Hebrew letter Cheth, which is corresponding to the intelligence of the house of influence. So this is also about influencing, persuasion, negotiation, conflict resolution, communication. And when you're communicating, don't you use a certain amount of emotion? And this isn't about being emotionally charged, but emotions have their rightful place when it comes to negotiating, influencing, and communicating with others and with yourself, right? Right? If you're at a store somewhere and you're dealing with a customer service person, and they're very quick in rushing you through, and they quickly say thank you, and before you have a chance to say, thank you, or I have a question, they're already off to the next customer, right? So that doesn't really feel all that great, as opposed to someone who might be present, a little bit more present or attentive to you, and says thank you. Is there anything else I can do for you? And they're genuinely there and present with you without already looking to the next customer to serve, right? So it's not about being overly dramatic or anything, but the emotions do have a key. And you have to have a measure of understanding to really be able to successfully negotiate and resolve conflicts with others and with yourself, right? Okay, so also the crab here. And interesting enough, there is a connection between the crab, the ocean, and the moon. In the early morning, in the wee hours of the morning, a lot of times, if you go out to the ocean and to the beach, you'll see crabs that have come out of the water, and they're scurrying about for food, walking around or burrowing in the sand. You don't see them in the middle of the day. You don't see them all day, but you do see them at certain times. So there is that too. There's that connection between water, or the ocean, and the moon, and how the moon affects the tide of the waters. The moon also affects growth of crops. And this is important to all of us, because if we didn't have the moon, and the sun for that matter, none of us would be able to exist, because we have to eat. And our food source is affected by the moon and the sun as well. So that's something to keep in mind here. Okay, let's see. There's a lot of symbology here on this card. The number that corresponds to this particular archetype is 171, and that has to do with gematria. And we'll get into that some other time, but that's something, if you want to pursue that a little bit more and look into that, you're welcome to do that. Here you see the Sphinx. It has the head of a bird, and then it has a body of a big cat. So that's very interesting. Again, you're talking about multi-dimensional change, right? Okay. Also down here, you have a machine. I have to research this a little bit more, but as you can see, there's fire there. So there's that element of fire. Okay, and then down here, you have a crystal. So let's take a look. Let's take a look a little bit. Let's read up on this and see what it has to say. I have a booklet that came with this deck, and I absolutely love this deck, to tell you the truth. Absolutely love it. Intelligence of the House of Influence. So this is also something to use if you are looking to persuade and influence. And who doesn't want a little bit more skills in being able to influence others and influencing yourself, more importantly, right? All right, let's see. Netzach, Bina. Chet. Hebrew meaning fence. So the letter Chet, that Hebrew letter, it means fence. Mystic numbers of the Sephiroth, 171. Tree of Life path, 18. The path of the Sephir Yetzirah, intelligence of the House of Influence. The queen scale color is maroon, and as you can see, the card is maroon. Power of casting enchantments. Complete practical attribution of Egyptian gods. Hormaku, living beings, real and imaginary. The crab, the turtles, the sphinx, the whale. Plants that correspond to this is the lotus. And the crystal that corresponds to this is amber. Magical weapons, the furnace. Okay, so down at the bottom, what we saw here with the fire, that's a furnace, okay? Vegetable that corresponds is the watercress. As you can see, that's a watercress there. And the magical powers, power of casting enchantments. The Greek alphabet letter is right here next to the 171. Okay. The chariot containing life, the secret of the universe, the ark. The child of the powers of the waters, the lord of the triumph of light. The 18th path is called the intelligence, or house of influence, by the greatness of whose abundance the influx of good things upon created beings is increased. And from its midst the arcana and hidden senses are drawn forth, which dwell in its shade, and which cling to it from the cause of all causes. That's from the Sefer Yetzirah. The 18th path runs between Bina and Gebura. It is the highest and thus the most profound path on the pillar of severity. The symbol of the letter Chet is the fence which separates the inner and the outer, the form and the content. The chariot can be considered the first interim result on the way from Aleph to Taf, from fool to the world, meaning triumph, health, victory, success. All right? So, excellent card here. Now, in the middle, again, we see the two Sphinx. We have a black and a white one, and these also have prominent breasts. And this symbolizes a nurturing. Again, this is a nurturing type of archetype. This is about something that holds space for you and nurtures you. What I like about this vice versa tarot card here in the center is that it has a caduceus here for healing. So this is about healing mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Okay, this is also about enlightenment. Look at the forehead here. Look at the figure's forehead right there in the center. You see that? There's a bright, starry light. This is about enlightenment, clarity, you see. And then you see the stars are aligned above the figure here. When the stars are aligned, things fall into place. Effortless success. Now, you know, it will require still hard work. You're not just going to have a sack of money fall out of the sky. Things are just not going to go your way because you appeared somewhere and said, hey, here I am. Now I want everything to go my way. It's not going to be like that. But when the stars are aligned and you're doing what you need to do, success is imminent. In the center of the torso, you have the face of a lion. You see that? Again, there's that implication of strength. And then on the shoulders there, you see the crescent moon again. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. One more thing I want to talk about here. On this card here, let's see this one here. You see that furnace? Think about what a furnace is used for. What is the use of a furnace? And why would that be part of the symbology here as far as the Chariot card is concerned? So that's something I want you to think about as we go through this. And then we have the crystal amber. If you're into crystals, this is a good one to use. I like to use this crystal amber as a focusing tool. A lot of times, you know, I can carry it in my pocket to remind me of my intention and to further develop that will and that goal, that specific goal. So again, this is a really great tarot card deck to use with the correspondence. Okay, now we have the backside of the vice versa tarot card. Let's zoom in on it a little bit here. Okay, so the back of the figure contains the symbol of Cancer, the crab, right here on the back of his cloak. Also, he is in an armored suit here, right? And look at this. He has a cup or a chalice right there. Again, that's a symbol for water. The cups, the suit of the cups, right? Symbol for water. But remember, there's also that element of fire because he did have the lion's face on his chest, Leo the lion, which symbolizes the element of fire. And then you also have the color red here too, right? Maroon red. Okay, so there's that. And then here is a rune, a symbol of the rune here. So that's very interesting, right? But look at the bottom, the ground here. It looks like the ground gives way to the starry heavens. As above, so below. As within, so without. So while this is on earth, he is stable and he's stable, solid on solid ground. There's also that implication that there's really more to where you are than meets the eye. And that you're basically much larger. There's much, much more to you than just that human body that you're in or that human condition. Also, look at this down here. You see there's these chains that seem to have been broken. You see these broken chains, like there might have been some enchainment or bondage or limitation, and he has broke through those, you see? So that's something for you to look at and kind of contemplate on too as you're working with the Chariot card. And he's facing forward, and what's in front of him? Unlimited expanse of the universe, of space and time. All right, so now remember, space and time are a construct of our minds. So again, that's why you see how the ground gives way to outer space. Because space and time are basically just constructs of our mind, as real as they are, as solid as the ground is. Okay, let's see. What else can we see? Let's look at some more cards. All right. This deck here is the Angel card deck. Again, this is a limited edition deck that I got off of an artist on Etsy. And these are the 72 angels of the Shem Hameforesh. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the corresponding angel to the Chariot card is Michael. And the Hindu Tattva elements that are corresponding to the Chariot card are Tejas, over here on the right, which is the red triangle, the element of fire. And then on the left is what is that? I'm a little tired. It skips my mind right now. But that is the element of water. And as you can see, it is the crescent moon, right? So let's zoom in a little bit on this card here. Michael, who is like God. And as you can see, he is stomping a dragon. Victory. Triumph. Taming your personal dragon. Taming those demons. Overcoming those demons. Perseverance, success in conflict, overcoming adversity. And if you're into using the angelic sigils here, down at The left hand side is the sigil for that. And then on the right hand side, I think this is from the Ars Goetia, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're into those sigils and if you're into that kind of work, this particular card shows them and makes them available to use. They are very, very powerful, by the way. So this is a very powerful card deck that I've used. Excellent, excellent. So the correspondences for the Hindu tattvas and the angels, the 72 angels. This is the card Michael. Okay, let's go on and see if we have some more correspondences. This one is the Millennium Thoth Tarot, and it looks a lot like the original one. I think it's a very beautiful deck here, and it has a little bit more of this Millennium feel, right? But again, as you can see here, you have the spinning wheel, the wheel of fortune that's spinning, and it's spinning so fast, it looks like it's standing still. And then again, you have the figure in the lotus position. In the center here in the chest, you have the sign of Cancer. You have the crab on top of his head. And then at the very top here, you have abracadabra. You see that? And then you have the circles. The magic is radiating from outward, from the inside out. He's making things happen, he or she. You really can't tell if it's a male or female inside of that armor there, right? But the armor is made out of gold, and then you have these crystals here, these 10 crystals that symbolize fortunate changes. Down here, you have the chimeras again. You have the bull with the wings and the lion's feet. You have the eagle with the wings and the human feet. You have the human with the eagle's feet and wings, and then you have the lion here, lion's head, with the bull's feet. So this represents multi-dimensional change on all levels. You have a lot of reds and blues. Again, you have the starry sky of space behind this figure. Now, before we end this, I wanted to take you back a little bit. This is the tarot cards from the 19th century. And as you can see, there is that same basic archetypal pattern that we see, right? The Italian tarot cards follow mostly the TDM tradition. Here below are some examples from left to right. A chariot from a deck made in the late 18th century by a certain Rossini in Torino. Then the chariot from a deck designed by the early 19th century by Della Rocca in Milan. And at the right, a chariot probably made in the Napoleonic time in Milan. So you see the two horses there, symbolizing the polar opposites. You see a king or a figure with a crown. So this is representing a royal type of energy, a kingly or a royal energy archetype. Also look at the postures here. All of the postures are they're filled with strength and victory. They're facing forward too, except for the one in the center there. He is looking off to the side, and one of the horses is looking off to the side. But this is the posture is one of confidence, of strength, of success. Here we have some older tarot cards. Well, they're not really tarot cards, but they are images of this chariot archetype. It says here, This is the source of inspiration for the chariot is this the source of inspiration for the chariot in the tarot in a frontal view? The mosaic is from the 3rd century Spain and can be seen in the Museo Arqueológico Nacional in Madrid. So this symbol and this idea in our human consciousness has been in our mass human consciousness for a long time. This archetype of victory, of overcoming obstacles. And as you can see, you see the two animals, the two horses here. You have, interestingly here, if you look at the one on the far left, the horses are facing each other, and their ends, their hindquarters, are opposed to each other. The one in the center there, their hindquarters are end to end opposing each other. Again, on the far right, you have the horses facing each other with their hindquarters end to end opposing each other. So this is the archetype, once again, of mastery, stability, mastering your own chariot, your own life, your own inner self and outer self. As above, so below, as within, so without, right? Here are some more. Relatively many chariot cards of the 15th century tarot deck survived. In fact, it is probably the tarot trump of which the most examples are available. So let me show them to you. We start with the oldest 3 surviving cards, all of them hand-painted ones. From left to right, we have the chariot of the Carey Yale Visconti, realized in 1441 at the occasion of the marriage between Bianca Maria Visconti and Francesco Sforza. The chariot of the Visconti Sforza Tarot, realized in the early 50s of the 15th century, maybe at the occasion of the Peace of Lodi in 1454, and the chariot card conserved in the Playing Card Museum of Issy-Ailles-Molineaux, close to Paris, France. Again, you see the two horses there in these chariots. Now, this figure here looks like it's a female, a queen. I think there is a crown on her. I think it's a little hard to determine. And I do think these are gilded gold, too. So there's that idea of royalty again, right? Now, this one here, it looks like there are children riding the horses while the main figure is seated in the chariot. And then there's other people there that look to be maybe servants. This is possibly a queen. I see that she's also has a sword in her hand. Again, there's that implication of strength here, you see. And she's also holding a round globe. Perhaps this implies that she has the world in the palm of her hands. This one here in the middle seems to be holding something too, something round, which, again, I think that may imply having the palm of the world in her hands. So it's very interesting to see how this archetype and the tarot deck has progressed throughout the centuries. And every deck you see, you will see that same basic core meaning. No matter what tarot card deck you look at, you're going to see that basic principle of overcoming obstacles, triumph, victory, change, movement, right? I want to read you something from the Kabbalistic Tarot by Robert Wang. This is on page 208 about the chariot here. It says here, it is the 18th path, called the House of Influence, by the greatness of whose abundance The influx of good things upon created beings is increased, and from the midst of the investigation of the arcana and hidden senses are drawn forth, which dwell in its shade and which cling to it from the cause of all causes. So this tarot card goes deeply rooted to the cause of all causes. The path of the chariot runs between Gebura, strength, and Bina, the great mother, on the tree of life. It is the highest and thus the most profound path on the pillar of severity. It is also the third initiation in the series of the hermit, strength, and chariot, meaning that it is an introductory experience to the supreme spiritual self. It is an initiation across the abyss, appreciating that once one crosses the abyss, all of its crossing paths are understood. The four paths besides the high priestess are in toto, the experience of the Garden of Eden, as will be understood by considering the element attached to each path. The chariot is watery, sign of Cancer. The lovers are airy, Gemini. The emperor fiery, Aries. And the hierophant is earthy, Taurus. These are also the four rivers of paradise which flow together into Tiperet, from the path of the high priestess. The chariot represents a completion, which Waite called a conquest on all planes, meaning that the chariot carries the influence of the higher to all of the lower planes. The 32 Paths of Wisdom describes this as the house of influence, by the greatness of whose abundance the influx of good things upon created things is increased. So again, there's this element of positive fortune. Here, the ancient text implies that through this path, one may discover the secrets of the hidden senses, which dwell in its shade, meaning the supreme darkness above the abyss. This card represents the vision of Ezekiel, wherein the prophet described the appearance of the four living creatures. Each had four faces, that of a man, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. Beside each of the creatures was a wheel, like a wheel within a wheel. And as the creatures moved, so the wheels moved. Above the heads of these apparitions was a vault glittering like a sheet of ice. Above the vault was a throne, and on the throne was a radiant figure. The implication is that the creatures, representing elemental energies of the manifest universe, are the chariot. Students of Jewish mysticism may be naturally curious about the roots of this card, since it is suggestive of one of the most important trends in early Jewish thought, of that of the Merkaba. The Merkaba is the chariot which carries the throne. Of this trend, Gershom Scholem says the earliest Jewish mysticism is throne mysticism. Its essence is not absorbed contemplation of God's true nature, but perception of his appearance on the throne as described by Ezekiel. He further states that while in the earliest days writers spoke of the ascent to the Merkaba, the later writers discussed enlightenment as the descent to the Merkaba, presumably meaning a journey into the depths of self. One way or other, there is the implication that the chariot is stationary, as it is shown in the Waite and Marseille's cards and Crowley cards. An imaginary supported by Paul Foster Case, who says that the number of the card 7 is traditionally related to rest. This is a mystery, for while the chariot moves continuously through the planes, it is also simultaneously at rest. Of course, the fact that this card is a clear reference to Ezekiel does not mean that it is indisputably related to Merkaba thought. Ezekiel was a very popular figure in the West during the apparent period of the invention of the tarot, as the art attests. Yet, if we are to suppose that the originators of the tarot had even the slightest knowledge of Kabbalah and Jewish metaphysics, we must assume that they were familiar with its oldest expression, Merkaba, and would not have used an image of a chariot casually. The intention here is not to attempt to answer this question, only to acknowledge that it exists and that it is one which may cut to the very core in defining what is modern and what is ancient in the system of tarot. Okay, so let's see. There was one more part here that I wanted to read to you here. All of these symbols, of course, deeply involved with the history of religions and with anthropology, which assigns occasionally contradictory meanings to a given symbol. The corrective is that the tarot cards, as archetypal images, represent truths which remain immutable despite the limitations of the attempts to describe them. So keep in mind that there are limitations when you're studying particular tarot cards, particular archetypes, and you're doing this comparative study of those archetypes with different tarot card decks. There are limitations because these ideas are way, way bigger than we could wrap our minds and heads around, to be honest with you. But there is a start. There is a start. We have pictures and symbols that we can start with that can be keys. They in of themselves are not that archetype. This isn't the archetype here that you're seeing. It is a symbol of that. And through that symbol is where you get access to it. So keep in mind that this is a key to give you access to the actual thing, but this in of itself is not the actual thing. So I want to thank you for watching. I hope this has helped. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. If you have any kind of things to add to it, or even if you have some corrections, I'm not above being corrected on things. There's no such thing as an authority in the occult or in tarot cards. So I'm very, very curious to see if you have anything that you want to add to it, or if you found a mistake or something like that, say, hey, actually this means that, or what I found to correspond to that symbol was this over here, and we can continue this discussion because this is really a very, very great card. Again, you can use this card 15 to 20 minutes a day, meditating, creative visualization. You can do future tensing. Basically, you're using this in a future scenario that you would like yourself to see yourself experiencing. You can also go back in the past. Maybe there are some childhood issues that you want to work on, or maybe there are some issues 5 years ago when you had a job situation, or you had a personal relationship situation, or you had a goal, a personal goal. You can also use it in present tensing, where you are in the present. So there are a zillion different ways to use this, and the sky's the limit. But this is a really great card to overcoming obstacles, to experiencing success, to experiencing triumph and victory, to making things happen. If you're stuck somewhere, maybe you've been stuck in a certain situation, this right here will give you movement. And it's the kind of energy that's stable, that's long-lasting, that's long-term, and that's deep, multidimensional. You're not just going to scratch the surface here. You're going to go really, really deep with this type of change. And it's fortunate and positive change. All right. Thanks for tuning in. And maybe I'll do another one and we'll talk a little bit more about tarot cards. I appreciate your time and have a good one.